Why are shootings and homicides exploding? And paradoxically, why are they exploding, shootings and homicides? But why are other crime categories, even some violent crimes, down? Down? That doesn't make sense, Dan. We've heard liberal cities are exploding with crime. They are. The worst crime of all, Joe, shootings and homicides. Can't come back from that one.
No.
You're dead. That's the end of it. But other categories of crimes, even violent crimes, have been going down. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Let's go through this one by one. First, what's really going on and why are shootings and homicides up? And to be crystal clear, because we do facts here, up dramatically in liberal-run cities. And so we're defining our variables correctly, unlike mainstream media loons who love to lie to you. When I say liberal cities, I'm discussing cities here, Chicago and New York, that are monopolistically run by liberals. Their city councils, their city governance boards, their city commissions, their mayors are all liberals, supermajority. Chicago, New York. You understand? Republicans have almost no power. Almost none. They can't filibuster things. They have no majorities. You get what I'm saying? So when we talk about the explosion in shootings and homicides in liberal-run cities, I'm defining the variable precisely, unlike media lunatics who never give you precise definitions. And when I say exploding, I'm talking specifically about Chicago and New York. What's going on? Well, here's what my contacts are telling me. It's what I called last night the 2Gs. Don't forget this. It's gangs and kids on the street with grievances that have had these grievances for a long time. Now, when I say kids and adults on the street too who have grievances, I'm talking about sociopaths here. I'm not talking about like Joe and I have a grievance over a show where Joe made an edit. I'm like, yeah, Joe, what you a bad edit? That stinks. Joe and I are civilized folks who we're not going to, Joe, I'd like to challenge you to a Hamilton Burr duel in New Jersey on a cliff. Joe and I are going to do that. We're grown adults. We're going to talk it out. Paula was mad at me last Friday. Do you think we worked things out because it's me and Paula? I even said it on the Gutfeld show. It became kind of a long time. And the interview show went totally off the rails at one point. It's so hilarious. But we're adults. That's not what some of this criminal element in the street, when they have grievances, Joe, a lot of times it turns deadly. So I'll get to the gangs thing in a minute. But you may say, well, if they've had these grievances for a long time, why are shootings and homicides spiking right now? You just said they've had these grievances for a while. Well, let's dig a little deeper. This is for my law enforcement friends. These sociopaths in the street, drug lords, whatever they are, hate each other, who would have whacked each other sooner, weren't doing so years ago in many cases. Number one, because a lot of them were already in jail. Deep analysis, right, Joe? Incredible. I'm being sarcastic here because one, what I just told you is true, but two, it doesn't require a deep analysis. When Rudy Giuliani and even Mike Bloomberg, who was the mayor of New York City, both two mayors of New York City, and even Bloomberg, who continued some of Rudy Giuliani's policing broken windows policies, they aggressively policed the city. Again, I don't mean aggressive physically, like they were hunting people down. I mean aggressive in that they enforced the law. If you were a drug dealer on the corner and you got caught with an open container of liquor, you're not allowed to drink in the streets in New York. I'm not debating whether that's a good or bad. I'm just telling you what is, okay? Unlike the media, you would probably get a C summons, and if the cop was going to write a summons, he would give you a pat down around your waist to make sure you didn't have a gun. You wouldn't shoot him while he was writing a summons. You're allowed to do that. Well, when we started doing that in New York City, people got caught urinating in public, open container, disorderly conduct, and they got patted down. A lot of those guns with these people who had grievances got taken off the street because a guy who was going to be arrested for an open container was now arrested for what? Criminal possession of a firearm. The Giuliani era doubled down by giving, there were basically mandatory sentences for a lot of these people as well. So the word got out in the street with these sociopaths with grievances and fights with their beefs with their other, drug dealers and other people in the neighborhood. The word got out, don't carry a gun in the street. These guys will toss you, frisk you for, open containers or disorderly conduct. You're going to go to jail for a year. Ladies and gentlemen, criminals talk. They're not stupid. They have criminal enterprises they have to run to. They're not dumb. They're not. They know what they're doing. Some of them would actually be pretty good business people if they get out of the criminal business. Word got around in New York. Don't carry a gun. So what did they do? I remember this when I was a cop. They'd sit in groups and, they still wanted protection. So they'd keep the gun and they put it like in a paper bag and store it on a bench next to them. So we learned as cops again to go and look at the scene too. Now, everyone would say, it's not my gun. You couldn't arrest anyone for it, but at least you got the gun off the street if you saw it. You get what I'm saying? Oh, it's not yours? Okay, we're just going to voucher this. We're going to inventory it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Word got around. Criminals are not stupid, folks. They're maintaining their enterprises too. They're illegal, but they're doing it. Nobody's doing that anymore. They're not tossing people. They're not frisking people. That's a cop term for frisking. They're not frisking people for disorderly conduct. They're not frisking people for drug possession. They're not doing any of that. So guys are like, hey, might as well just carry our guns again. And then when the guy who had the grievance against the guy, I don't mean to get too complicated here, finds out his buddy's carrying a gun, he don't want to get whacked, so he carries his gun too. And then they see each other, and it's the Wild West. Boom, 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 boom. This is what it is. It's a Wild West. It's an old Clint Eastwood movie. And then the other guy hears the other guy got shot. He's like, I'm not getting shot. I'm going to get my gun too. This is what, folks, none of this is complicated to understand. You have people with long-standing street grievances, drug fights, turf wars, whatever they may be. Combine that with rival gangs who've hated each other forever, who now get word amongst the street grievance crowd that, hey, you carry a gun, you're not going to get locked up, and they're shooting each other up, so we're going to shoot up each other too. This is not hard to figure out. Criminals talk. So that's element number one. Why are shootings and homicides up? Because people have no fear of being arrested for carrying guns anymore. The grievances they've had in the past are now turning into gunfights, not grievances. And gangs are taking notes. Oh, yeah, nobody's getting pinched for gun possession. We might as well carry ours. We're the toughest gang in town. We'll show you. I want to be like the cowboys from Tombstone or something. Now, second part. This is a real paradox for people to figure out. Why are other categories of crime down? In some cases, down dramatically. Burglaries, many cases, street robberies, but shootings and violent crimes. Right? If these liberal cities are becoming violent, Wild West-like towns, which they are, by the way, why are other violent crimes down? I said this on Sean, so if you listened, you're probably getting a sneak peek ahead, but I'll tell you again. Folks, the economies in these largely liberal-run cities, Chicago and New York, to be fair, as a result of coronavirus, and it's not just simply the liberal policy, this has a lot to do with it, but a lot to do with the coronavirus, misinformed, dopey lockdowns too. The economies are so bad, nobody's coming into the cities. So what's the problem, Joe? There's no one to mug. There's nobody on the streets. Who are you going to mug? Who are you going to mug, the pigeons? There's nobody there. Now, why would burglaries be down? I asked Paula last night. Went into bed. She was almost trying to sleep, whatever. I said, why do you think? She figured it out right away because she's smart. She said, because people are home all the time. They're not going to work, so burglaries are down too. Why am I telling you any of this? Because I watched Marie Harf, I think it was, on Fox yesterday. And I see a lot of these liberal commentators. They do the same thing. Ladies and gentlemen, I talked about it yesterday in relationship to that unemployment benefit and this study that's a scam. You have to learn to pick apart liberal narratives piece by piece. Their new narrative about exploding crimes in largely liberal cities, shootings and homicides, which is very real. There are dead bodies to prove it. Their new narrative is, well, other categories of crimes are down. Yeah, that's because the economies are so bad that there's nobody there to rob. That's not a marker of success. Please, the verdict is in. Please stop saying that. That sounds really dumb. There's nobody to mug and burglaries are down because everybody's home. There's no empty house to burglarize. And one of the other arguments they're making, which of course takes an element of truth, Joe, and fabricates and weaves a fantastic narrative from it that's not true. You have to learn to parse this too. The other narrative I've heard them say, the liberal talking heads on television, is, well, violent crime and shootings in many cases and homicides are up in some cities with Republican mayors too. They're not wrong. There are cities with Republican mayors out there that have seen a blip in shootings. Tulsa, Jacksonville, with Lenny Curry, and the mayor of Tulsa is a Republican too. But again, folks, you have to parse it and see what they're doing. They're trying to distract you. Those shootings are up, and in some cases, homicides are up. But they are up by maybe 10, 15%. Cities run by Democrats, they're up 25% or more in many cases. In New York and Chicago, in some cases, triple digits when it comes to shootings.
You just heard Dan Bongino.